But believe it or not, we were able to get that system back up and going. But guess what? It took us almost 3 days to get the line back up and running. 3 days of down production. That's just uncalled for and unheard of. So, you're going to hear me talk about the Octoplant, the answer to your version control and change management, and tell you how many times I've done and heard this. But the primary today of Octoplant is to turn around, and Octoplant came from the name of, 8 arms of solution, your IoT device management. This is where we can create and organize your assets, manage your asset life cycles. And what we mean by managing your life cycles is the ability to know at a glance your versions that's been out there, what's changed, when it changed, why it changed. So critical in knowing that life cycle and displaying the history of it, being able to create a very accurate inventory. And when I say all this, we're not just talking about PLCs and SCADA backups. We're talking about documentation. If you got a order to go and add this, temperature switch into the system, you can document that management of change right in with that asset, so you can keep up with it real easily. Somebody asks, well, why did you change that? Well, did you look in the system? It's right there. Managing all the access rights as well. Safeguarding your assets. Again, it's not, we can back up our software up on a server, but in the old days, and I'm not saying old days, it's still being done probably 70% of the time today, manually backing up the assets every time I go out there and do a program change. Well, with Octoplant, you can turn around and do an automated back up the assets automatically. Don't have to even think about it when it's done. We'll notify you when it's a difference in it. We can trigger these jobs with consistency. And what that means is we can do a time-based schedule to do the backups. But what if you want to turn around every time somebody hit the key switch on that PLC, go back to run mode? We can then also trigger that backup after that went back into run mode, and then compare those jobs. And what good would be a backup if you can't recover? So we got instant recovery, managing it, and you can choose which one you want to restore from. Give you a business intelligence tool. It's a dashboard, and KPIs are predefined displays in the dashboard, so you can look at over time, not just what your site, but all sites can be compared to what's going on and seeing what's performing. If you see another site that's outdoing your site, you can call your counterpart up over there and say, hey, what are y'all doing different to make this happen? Being able to do that. Create your own dashboards and reports. View multiple instances and use third-party data to import into the BI tool to be able to do that. We also have the operation efficiency, being able to turn around and customize your workflow. Everybody has their own workflow. Talking to customers over it, like very few customers I've ever found says, well, we do it exactly the same across not just every business unit, but also other sites, and everything else is different. Being able to customize that workflow to fit your needs is there. Synchronizing the data across multiple instances. If you're into the pharmaceutical and you need approval processes, we got a compliant management module that will do and define the the approval processes. Also extend the GXP support and the reporting aspect of it. Then we got the educational and training. It's an e-learning platform where you need to go, where your new hires need to learn this. The users, how do they go in and be able to get up to speed on how to use the client tool? Use case product webinars. This webinar right here, it would have been displayed on your portal, being able to turn around and say, hey, I want to sign up for that, and then get product training. And then last but not least, the threat protection, being able to know what your vulnerabilities of your assets in the field. But that leaves a question I get asked by every customer out there. Every customer always asks me, well, Randy, what assets do I got out there? How do I know what my assets are? And I go, well, don't you know what you got in the field? Don't you guys wrote down, and how many times we got it wrote down on a spreadsheet? And I say, okay, well, did you include all your drives? Did you include all your routers, your switches, and all that stuff? Well, no. How do you know that's right? That's why we partnered up with OT Base here and their product. Tavon has been a great supporter and help with my customers. And now we've joined forces together to bring the ultimate OT protection. Tavon, you want to kind of review what you've got and show our customers what they got? And now you're muted.
All right. So we both had the mute thing. So thanks for the introduction, Randy. And what you said is very important. And it's the reason why OT Base exists. A good majority, about 90% of our customer base, potential customer base, has no idea what they actually have. They have no comprehensive OT asset management system. And that leads to a number of problems. You can't have an intelligent conversation about anything until you have an accurate inventory system. So if you want to talk about vulnerabilities, you can't have that conversation because you don't even know what is or could be vulnerable. If you want to talk about risk management, you can't have that conversation about what is at risk to your company or your OT environment until you have an accurate inventory. And that's exactly what OT Base does. So a little bit about the company. My name is Tavon Harris. I'm Vice President of Sales. OT Base is an international software company, 30 years of experience in the OT environment, as well as we were known for the analysis of the Stuxnet virus and remediation of that. I lost my camera. OT Base is designed for companies with dozens of sites, thousands of networks, and hundreds and thousands of assets. We cater to both the engineering and the cybersecurity use case. We specialize in large manufacturing and oil and gas, and we are a software-only solution, and we're an active discovery-only solution, not another ICS or IDS detection tool. So that separates us from the pack, and that's exactly how we do our discovery. So maybe if you jump into, Ty, do you have my architecture? There it is. You jump into the architecture, I can kind of explain it briefly. So being a software-only solution has a bunch of benefits over your passive solutions, and there's two main ones. One is we scale. Being a software-only solution, you don't have to install hardware appliances all over the place and constantly have to install them as you install your devices. The other thing is, and just going to be totally honest here, the passive solutions do not work. That whole technology doesn't work for an accurate inventory. They work for threat and anomaly detection, but they do a very poor job when it comes to an actual inventory. So if you're looking at the screen here, you see OT Base is a two-tier system. Your discovery happens in your process network, and discovery is just an autonomous Windows service. And this is a decentralized architecture. Runs every 24 hours, encapsulates your asset information, and passes that up to OT Base inventory. And this is an on-premise solution. And once all that information reaches OT Base inventory, then we contextualize with vulnerability, product lifecycle. If you have other assets in Excel spreadsheets, you can import them. And we integrate with third-party as well as direct connectors for Splunk, Power BI, and ServiceNow. So back to you, Ty.
Of course. And just to kind of set the stage for here, this is where we're going to kind of jump into comparison. So I'll let the guys take the lead on this, of course. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. So as I talked about, OT device management, safeguarding assets, and instant recovery, the BI tool, and the operation efficiency and compliance, all those aspects of the 8 arms is very focused on, when you're looking at those products. But if you notice what the comparison between OT Base, even though some people say, well, we kind of cross lines together, I don't think that's at all true. So, when we do this, OT Base has their specialty, we have ours, and then we share data in the middle to be able to share data with the different groups. As I always tell people, we're bringing the IT and the OT team together and sharing the data that's needed in there. So your cybersecurity team gets what they need, and your engineers and things get what they need. So yeah, vulnerability reporting. You want to know what PLC needs to be updated or not updated. We don't have that aspect. We don't have the discovery. That's where OT base comes.
So if you're looking at our side, and this does happen quite often, where a customer will have a conversation with a customer, vice versa, and they say, okay, well, now that we have this inventory, how do we back it up? And that's out of scope for our product, but that's exactly in their wheelhouse. So from the OT-based side of things, we focus on the global discovery of our assets. So no matter how many sites you have, no matter how many assets you have, we focus on the global discovery of those. Another key tenet for our product is the OT asset inventory. And a comprehensive OT asset inventory, you're able to look at how many versions of a software you have out there. You get the ability to have a complete audit of your software and hardware. Vulnerability management, and real vulnerability management, not your false positive and false alarms that come in with your anomaly and threat detections that you spend a bunch of time trying to figure out if this is even relevant to my installation base. We're a definitive product, so there's no probabilities inside of OT base. Security audits, to be able to quickly do a security compliance audit and not have to worry about, it's that time of year and those guys are coming, they're going to take over our break room and interrupt our lives. You could just run that report yourself. And the last thing, which is probably the most important, is obsolescence management. In the example that Randy gave earlier, where a forklift ran and knocked the PLC down, those kinds of things are the most, or probably the most dangerous to your environment. And one of those things being obsolescence. So not worrying about the Russian or Iranian attacker that's working on compromising your OT environment, that's not as likely to happen as an obsolete device that's in your production line that no one even knew was there, running some software that no one even knew, goes down. Then you have the problem of trying to figure out where this device is, what it was running, and then find a replacement for it. So basically, if you think about OT base, we're foundational. Everything is built on that foundation after the discovery of your inventory.
Thank you, Tavon and Randy. And I think like what you guys both said, we can agree that with OT base and obviously MDT for Octoplant, we have completely different solutions, but we all have the same focal point and responsibility when it comes to the OT data environment is about giving visibility, management, and for OT base, of course, that discovery, and for us, that management as well too.
Most definitely.
So I'm going to open up the floor now. This is where we're going to just have our open discussion, and I'll pull these questions down. And again, you guys will see the gentlemen's lovely faces instead of these screens, but just wanted to give you guys a quick snapshot of the 7 questions we'll go through. But of course, as we're asking questions, please feel free to jump in the chat. I see Randy answering some questions, and you guys don't be shy. Again, if it comes up and it pertains to the question, we'll jump in and answer it, but we'll try to keep everything towards the end to give everybody an opportunity to get their questions answered. And of course, if something is needing more of a one-on-one interaction, I'm sure Tavon and Randy will make sure to provide their information within this webcast as well as in the post communication. So here are the questions that we are going through. I'm going to stop sharing the screen, guys, and bring it to you guys and just start the conversation. So again, you guys gave some great overviews about the company, you guys' experience and things like that. But just one more time, can you provide an overview, Randy, of Octoplant and Tavon of OT Base and the core functionalities that you guys have seen in your experience that not only have helped leaders within the space, but you see being used cross collaboratively as well too?
Ty, I appreciate it. And again, what can you say? I mean, we're founded on backups and version control. And that's what we do. That's who we are. And that's where we're going to stay. The two companies were developing very similar products over the time, and we've just brought them together to bring out the best. I like to say we secure all your configurations of all of your OT devices. We don't go in there and say PLCs. We say OT assets because everybody says, "Oh, I back up my PLC program." Well, what about that drive out there? I always ask a customer, I said, "Did you back up that drive?" Well, the configurations in the PLC, well, it might be different or it might be changed. One thing I can also tell you most definitely that being in the business for the years I've been in, I started out with Modicon PLCs. And now we know in the US, Rockwell's king. Overseas, Siemens is king. So one thing we know for sure is that as we go down the path of this, things are going to change. Everything's going to change. I do a lot of business in the oil and gas environment. And believe it or not, they buy and sell assets. How do you know what those assets are? How do you know what you're buying? Just because it's on a piece of paper, I can tell you for sure, been out at a site, it was sold to have a brand new SCADA system. And when we went on site, the computer wasn't even there. And of course, the person that sold it said, well, somebody must have come in and stole it. The person buying it was like, no, you promised me a working SCADA system. But guess what? We couldn't define it because nobody knew really for sure what was there. What do you see, Tavon?
So just to answer, to kind of tell you what we do, and I kind of mentioned it before. So we're very much foundational. So it's the foundation of building an asset inventory is what we do. So once you have that foundation, then we build things like real vulnerability management. Like I said before, we're a definitive product, so there's no probability involved in that. Once you have that inventory that's accurate, you can do things like network mapping. And just think of how much time in the past organizations have spent contracting people to get accurate topology maps. Well, since you have an accurate inventory, those maps are actually updated every 24 hours, just as if they were any of your vulnerabilities. So accurate topology maps, asset health, things like hard drives being full or memory overrun error, you'll get those things. Obsolescence management. And like I said before, that's a very pressing issue in the OT space. Being that a lot of the devices are old, you need to know what you need to have spare parts for and when a device is actually going out of service. And then things like product architecture, being able to have accurate configurations in your devices. And that's what OT base does in a nutshell.
Thank you both. I appreciate that. And again, like as we just keep talking about it, what with you guys' experience, and I know you guys have said this, but what do you guys feel sets OT base and Octoplan apart from other solutions within the market? I know we can, go tit for tat for like who's better and what's not, but like in your experience. In your experience, what do you guys feel?
I'll go first on this one. I'll go first, Randy, if you don't mind on this one. Right. So in the OT space, we don't look at any of the other products as competitors because we are a pure play OT asset management system. That's the only thing that we do. Whereas other products will say they do threat and anomaly and asset management, that's not actually true. They don't be able to do everything at once. So that's all we do is the asset management. And what we have noticed is there is a real strong need for that. You can skip step one. We're step one. We're foundational. If you skip step one and you start talking about your vulnerabilities and risk and things like that, well, you're only getting half of the picture. And eventually you're going to have to come back to step one because you won't get those answers once you skip the first step. So I don't look at anyone as a competitor. I think our closest competitor is Excel spreadsheets. I mean, that's our biggest competitor in the field because that's what everyone has and that's the thing that everyone uses. And that's the thing that's outdated by the time you start the project of actually trying to update them. So, and that's what the excitement is about the partnership with Ovasi is once we have that global information, the next logical step is this stuff being backed up? Well, that's out of scope for our product, but we have a partner can help with that.
Thank you, Tavon. What about you, Randy?
Well, just as you said, our largest competitor is a manual backup system. I mean, it's a process that is implemented. I think every company has implemented that process in the past. and being able to do so. It's worked well over the years. It's just as the complexity of these has gotten so great, we can't do it. I think our biggest, well, there's two main differences as I say. The primary one is we're an on-prem solution. So your code is backed up right on-prem. And what that means is your data, everything is stored locally. Our topology is right in alignment with OT base. So when you look at the two products, we're identical. They have a discovery node. We got, agents out there and so on, and being able to do that. But also, one last thing is we're not a vendor. We're vendor independent. I like to say, is we're developing the product to support across all vendors as possible. We don't support in a complex comparing tool with all products, but we can definitely back up all products and be able to do so. But we have a wide range of products we do support with automated backups and also compares. And I'll share that link with you so you can go look at. And that's a big thing. You think of these vendors out there that go out and say, well, we got a backup tool for our product. And then you go to the next vendor and I got a backup for that product, and so on and so on. Some of these don't even have backup processes in place or tools to do so. But if you're focused on that, their primary focus is their product. Our focus is across the board, the majority of the products, and being able to do so. So we're very open to the different platforms. So, and like I said, I'll share with the link to that. All right.
Thanks, Randy. And as we go on to the next question, I hear us always going to one big point, which is security, protection, and visibility and vulnerability. So, and Tavon, this might be a two-parter for you because I have another point for you. But when it comes to OT base and Octoplant for addressing specific challenges, as you guys mentioned, how do you guys see the solutions supporting and being like, I know, Randy, you've mentioned it, and I love the way you said it, being a sense of insurance in a way, and not like a fix all be all, but a sense of like protection for the engineering and security space. And again, a two-part for you, Tavon. You mentioned about how the solution is active and what does that look like, and how can you assure there's no type of sense of a fear of it being such an active solution on the facility.
Well, I'll address the last part first. That is a common concern, or I could say it's used to be. It's becoming less of a concern now, and that really just comes with misinformation. So we are an active discovery solution only, and if there's fear out there of that, I'll explain what that actually means. So we are a product that was built for OT, not an IT product ported for OT, and there's a huge difference. So when we do our discovery, we are speaking in those devices and their legitimate industrial protocols. So if I am doing a discovery and Randy, you are at Rockwell PLC, you speak in Ethernet IP. So therefore I speak to you in Ethernet IP. So we speak in their legitimate industrial protocols. When you're thinking of when you hear that term, people are scared of an active solution. What they're thinking of is an IT solution being used in an OT environment. Think of like a Qualys or SolarWinds, where you open up thousands of ports and flood the OT environment with data, which can cause devices to knock over and shut down. That's not what we do. We open a handful of ports and speak to those devices in the legitimate protocols. So to the other part of your question is OT base really serves two use cases or two groups of people. By having an accurate inventory, it'll make sense why both those groups of people are serviced. The first group would be your engineers. Engineers will use OT base to figure out where all the devices are physically located, as well as the configuration of those devices. The security folks would look at this and say, okay, let's look at our vulnerabilities that actually affect those devices and where they are. And I keep stressing having a real inventory. The problem with any probability active solution is there's no real inventory. So that security team, when they're looking at this, they chase their tail, chasing phantom and false alarms of things that don't actually impact their installation. With OT base, you can quickly look and say, okay, these devices here are critical. So if anything affects those devices, OT base will handle those vulnerabilities different. So you can easily look and see the things that affect your installation base instead of wasting your time with things that don't, because it's not possible to patch your way out of this problem. There are hundreds and thousands of vulnerabilities, and there's probably 15 or 20 made since we've been talking. So there's just no way to patch your way out of the problem. But the first part of that is having an accurate inventory. You can prioritize your work.
Thanks, Savon. How about you, Randy?
And add to a story, just understand that we do not prevent attacks. We just do not prevent attacks. What we do is that we were able to restore quickly after you repair that attack. And so if you're attacked and your PLC goes down or your HMI goes down, we'll be able to restore to a known good state. And that's what I always tell people. I don't really call it, we're not preventing downtime, we're minimizing the restore time and being able to do that. The one thing I always like to tell, since I deal with a lot of engineers on an engineering level, is I could always ask them, I said, well, how many times you went and told your manager I need to replace this PLC? And he'll go, well, it's working. Why do we need to replace it? Yeah. Now you'll also have the tool to be able to go and look at it and says, look, this thing vulnerable, we got to be able to turn around and get this replaced. It's so old, we can't even patch it. Now you've got a third-party solution that's able to go in there and say, look, here's why we need to replace it right here. You don't have to go and justify it. You can't just say, well, it's old, it needs to be replaced. Now you've got a reason and a justification.
To piggyback on that, Randy, and that's a very good point. So once you've combined the two solutions to iterate your point, you go to your manager and say, this device is, we need to replace this device. You're not just saying that, you have proof. Here, this is the last from the manufacturer, this is an obsolete device. By the way, this particular device is part of a critical system that we've already identified as something that's critical to our operation. So when you're making those decisions, you actually have the data to go to the management and say, okay, here's what we need, and this is why we need it.
Thank you both. Again, I know as we continue to nurture and grow our partnership together, within like the times to come, but do you guys have any wins or success stories that you guys, or case studies that you guys can share as you guys work better together within this year, previous or upcoming?
I do. So we're in the largest oil and gas company in the United States. They had been down the path of using the path of solutions and just failed miserably. So they brought us in. And once we started doing deployment and they started getting this inventory, the next logical step was, thank you, we actually know where this stuff is, but can you guys back it up? And no, that's out of scope for the product. But I was able to say we have a partner that does. And we brought Ovasi and Randy in, and now they're in that customer as well. So the customer was able to start with not having an accurate inventory. And once they got that, the next logical step is always, okay, now we know what we have. The fear is the stuff isn't being backed up, and that's where these guys came in. So I think we work very, very well together. The technologies complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. And as you said, to add to that, this customer here knew that they needed to be able to answer the TSA requirements of documenting their procedures, right? They needed to be able to go and back up their OT devices. And they had that process. They were going out to the PLCs and backing them up, and the flow computers, and they were backing them up. Well, OT base says, well, what about these routers out at the site? Are you doing that? And the managers were like, oh, lack of better words, crap. We got to be able to start backing up all of our devices, and we don't document how we do it. We don't do it. And that's where we came in and be able to give a solution that will back up all their OT device and their configurations.
And then have one point of one point to look at all of those things. So once the integration is done between the two systems, you can easily go to OT base and say, okay, what devices haven't been backed up at XYZ plant? And you'll get that metric. When's the last time a device was backed up? Oh, by the way, this device wasn't seen last time. It's missing, so therefore it wasn't backed up. So you have that one truth record to tell everything that's happened in that environment.
And one to add to it is one pipe. What if one appeared? And we've seen customer add a wireless access point out there, and it wasn't even a customer. It was a contractor went in to work on the system, added a wireless access without a password, and guess what? OT base could identify that device, say here's an unknown device, and that could be removed. It's not to be the police and the overlooking. Well, I guess it is kind of the police, but it's there to help you. It's there to help you know what's happening in your system.
Right. Visibility. It's all about visibility.
Yep.
I think we can all agree that's the biggest thing when it comes to both solutions. It's just like that. I guess you can compare. It's like a true importance of visibility and awareness. Because if you don't know, how can you better prepare for, like you said, Randy, unplanned downtime, or knowing what routers, Tavon, that are not being protected or being even visible to the facility line. So I know we keep reiterating about how robust both products are and how strong they are and mighty they are. But can you guys elaborate on the scalability when it comes to different businesses, whether sizing or company group leaders and things like that? Can you guys talk a little bit more about the scalability for like larger to small size to mid sizes?
I'll start with that real quick. Again, this is more of a customer direct question. I'm not trying to put the question off, but we work with the customers on a day-to-day basis to fit their architecture, whether it be, where you need the servers, where you need the agents. And we're so scalable in being able to do so. And just to tell you, I've not found a customer that didn't have a network that we couldn't fit in. Maybe not in the manner they want it, but we've been able to give a solution to them that worked in their system. So, I mean, again, I said that our topology mirrors with what the OT base does. But again, I want to let you know, I like to work with you direct, schedule some time, and we can talk about the actual your network, not just a generic one.
Right. So scalability is one of the most important and most powerful parts of OT base. So we are a global solution. So we specialize in large manufacturing and oil and gas, and these companies have sometimes dozens or sometimes hundreds of sites with thousands of networks. Being a software-only solution, it's scalable. You can remotely install our discovery tool and then have an inventory that's global based. So that's a really important part, because if you don't have the ability to scale, then the whole premise of having an accurate inventory breaks. So, okay, if you don't scale, you have an accurate inventory in this small part of the world or this facility. That doesn't really work for having a global inventory and building upon that. So a big tenet of OT base is the ability to scale.
I love that, because again, like you guys are both very familiar with, and what I've even learned in this space is that it doesn't matter how small or big or large your facility is. You have to know what is going on to ensure everyone is safe. We know, what the ins and outs are. And like you guys both share, like as people grow in leadership roles or go to different departments, what is being monitored and what is being visible and discovered, and what is on that facility floor, so that you don't have to think, oh, well, Joe from 5 years ago said this. Well, he's not here, and we don't know that.
Exactly.
So again, you guys are continuously talking about how this is something truly to be considered and a need on facility floors and manufacturers. But it comes down to the question is like, how friendly is the solution when it comes to the interface? Like when you guys are onboarding and you guys are locked in with either expanding expanding on manufacturing or having a new manufacturing plant line, how user friendly is it interface, and what trainings and onboarding supports do you guys both provide for your customers?
Okay, I'll go grab this one, Randy. So as far as the usability of OT-based, that's also one of the very important things, because you don't want to have a product that is so complicated that the core people can't even use it. So if you can use an Excel spreadsheet, you can use OT-based. Even the discovery looked a lot like RS links from the discovery, the RS links inside of the Rockwell software. So it's designed for the people that use these tools to be able to use them effectively. But as far as training goes, once the customer gets onboarded with us, we have a couple of options for training. One, we offer a concierge service where you get assigned an account manager to help you with deployment. They'll bring your team along. And then if you decide not to do that, we also have a ticket-based system that you can submit your tickets in and get responses. The system itself is very easy to use. It's very easy to install. And once it's up and installed, it's designed for a few people to be able to use the system without a big overhead for administration.
Yeah, just to add to it, I mean, the same thing. We do a very similar training session. We have e-learning, right, as one of our arms of our Octoplant. I always tell customers is that when we go into a solution, we're not there to bring and drop our product in your lap. We actually work with you to do the install. And we let you hit the keyboards. We teach you to go in and do the application. We teach you how to set up the jobs, all the aspects of it, and being able to do so that you can become the trainer. But we also do offer training. If we want to do a user-based training, we can do so. But by the time you get through that 3-day install, you're going to be an expert on the solution itself. You're going to be self-compliant and being able to do it. But we also have our e-learning, and just as we have a ticket system so that everything's tracked and answered. And we're a global company, so we do have support across the globe. So you turn around in your time zone, what benefits you? Your ticket gets entered into a global database, and then that ticket's picked up and answered through whichever one's accessible at that time. We have a base here in the US and we have a base in Germany, so the time zones are supported there.
Thank you both. And just our last question before we just jump into the questions that are being provided in the chat and Q&A. What integrations does both software with OT-based and Octoplant offer with other systems commonly used?
So on the OT-based side, we have integrations with pretty much anything that uses a REST API. So a REST API is pretty much the standard in the industry as far as integrations go. But we have a direct connector for your Splunks and ServiceNow and Power BI. So most of our customers will have some other product in place that they want to import or export data from OT-based. Think of like SAP system or some other historian that they want to contextualize or add to OT-based from those systems, and we use a REST API for that.
And for us, mainly it's done through a middle layer, so that if you need to upgrade the Octoplant or the OT base, it doesn't break that interconnection. We have a middle layer that does the communications. We also be able to import the data from other parties into our BI tool, so you can do comparison and custom reporting off of that.
Thank you both. Those were another questions we wanted to just address that I know both of you guys have heard on OT-based, and for you, Tavon, and for you, Randy, and vice versa when you're talking to potential customers and current customers. So we are going to open up for the chat. I see the only question that we have in the chat right now was, will there be a road, and this is for our side, Randy, will there be a roadmap for Octoplant to work with editing software that Autosave currently does? Example, Mitsubishi, Omron, Proface, and etc. Randy, of course, Randy and Doug, I'll let you guys jump in for that. But on the marketing communication side, I know we are doing many rollout communications with our customers who are in the both autosave and version dog space of our procedure software, just to provide the needed support, next steps that's needed to sunset from one to the other, and et cetera. But Randy and Doug, feel free to just add on to what I have for the marketing side for communication.
Yeah. I'll take that. Yeah, and we'll put something in the chat on a link there. We have a link up on our info page. Our info page is our supporting document. On the device, there's a request document that turns around, and you can enter your request, as you said here, Mitsubishi, Armoron, and Proface. And those are listened to, and it's organized in our development team, at which the most request, believe it or not, gets the most attention. The squeaky wheel gets the attention, right? I can tell you right now for sure we have supported the Mitsubishi plugin that autosave has done, along with Armoron. Both of those are supported right now. They're viewed the Proface module right now. We do have a roadmap for all of these and which components are, reach out to your sales rep or reach out to us, and I'll be able to do a one-on-one to go over your devices. But I can tell you right now, Mitsubishi, because I've got a customer I just quoted for it is supported. We did a live demo with it. I can't remember exactly what the programming software is, GX2, GX3. GX2 it's identical to the way autosave did their version control. So hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Randy. I am not seeing any current questions, but I will give people a couple of seconds to just kind of jump in and ask any questions. But what I will share on the screen is just a thank you, and also providing both Randy and Tavon's contact information. And guys, I know that you will be sharing this, within the chat, and we will be providing this within the post communication that we'll be sharing, as mentioned, at the latest this Friday. To those who are registered. And if you guys have some people who did register and weren't able to come, please reiterate that this session has been recorded and will be provided on demand for visibility for any time needed. If you want to rewatch, if you want to share with a team, if you're looking for both solutions and want to just show this showcase of how they work better together and just on the facility, please share. Tavon and Randy, I don't know if you guys have any last words before I double check our chat before closing.
No, I would say thanks for inviting us. I'm looking forward to the partnership. And if anyone has any questions, I put my email in the chat. If you want to look at spend some time and do a live demonstration of OT-Base and look at your use case for it, I'll reach out and I'll be happy to have a demo with you.
Thank you so much, Tavon. And again, thank you again, Tavon, for the time to go over OT-Base, and you as well too, Randy, for going over all things that can be discussed within the manufacturing industry for unplanned and solutions like these two. So again, thank you everyone for joining. We appreciate your time. I'm sure there'll be more webcasts similar to this to come, just to give more thought leadership and getting a little bit more nitty gritty under the hood of the solutions. But again, as reiterated, please feel free and do not hesitate to reach out to our leaders on this call, our hosts, for any demos, any deep dives under the hood, and any questions that may have not been addressed or you were too scared to ask on this call, which I understand sometimes too. Can be a little scary sometimes, I understand. Yeah. So thank you guys so much. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day and rest of this week, and we will be in communication shortly, and have a great new year as well too.
Thank you, Ty, for hosting.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.